listening to LOA Recon with the Good Vibe coach Jeanette Ma, where we dissect the ins and outs and the art and science of conscious creation, all intended to amp up your manifesting game. Let's have some fun together. So I get a fair number of clients who will report that they engage their alignment exercise and they'll get results and then the results stop. Like either they can't maintain the success or whatever was working stops working and it just goes back to the way it was. And, you know, it's pretty easy to know as an outsider or an observer what's going on there. And it's usually that they did their alignment exercise, they got the success, and then they stopped their alignment practice because they got what they wanted, so no need to continue it anymore. And as they don't continue what they did to create it, their vibration slowly drifts back to its default place and life returns to normal. And that's not always our favorite thing. In fact, that's what happened to me when I was building my coaching practice and I was drawing in clients and I was doing a variety of things. You've heard me talk before, all the things I was doing. I did a lot of things because I was not leaving it up to chance. I probably overworked it. Truth be told, if I'd have done less and relaxed more about it, probably would have happened faster. But I still built a full practice in 3 months by doing things like prayer rain journaling. I would write about how much fun I had with my clients every day. And then I also read a perfect client list, you know, traits, qualities, and characteristics, as well as what made them tick, what their expectations of me. That was from the formula offered in Attracting Perfect Customers by Stacey Hall. And I had an affirmation anytime I noticed the gremlin thoughts like, uh-oh, this isn't going to work, you're going to have to get a job. When I recognized that, usually because of the pit of fear in my stomach, making me aware that I was thinking an unhelpful thought, I would rewrite it with I would say, no, that's not what I'm creating. What I'm creating is, I'm a brilliant coach in high demand. And then I did things like I wrote appointments on my calendar for people that didn't exist. And I put names on empty file folders, just things that made it look like there were clients in my world instead of, you know, my world showing me, you still got no clients, girl. So I was doing a variety of things. And sure enough, started getting hired. By 3 months, I had a full practice. And I was like, I got a little cocky. I was like, why is everyone talking about how hard this is? That wasn't hard. That was easy. And I go about my business. I'm coaching my people. I'm having a good time. And after a couple weeks, I noticed I'm not getting as many inquiries as I used to get. And the ones that I am getting, they're not as perfect. They're not as an ideal a match to my perfect client profile as I'm used to. And I asked myself, I was scratching my head going, what's going on here? Well, I had stopped all my alignment stuff, like all of it. Once I had a full practice, I was like, ta-da, done. No, it doesn't work that way. If I want those clients to keep coming, guess what? I got to keep the alignment. I got to keep the vibration going. Once that becomes my default vibration, then I don't have to keep doing the work. But until then, if I want them to keep showing up, I got to keep doing what brought them in the first place. So I did. I printed off, I picked up my perfect client list and read it again. I made my entries. I used my affirmation. And sure enough, it only took like a couple weeks for things to get back in the groove where I was getting regular prospective inquiries and the people were fabulous again. So you'd think I'd learned my lesson, right? You'd think. So, oh boy, this is my most recent experience with it. I don't know how long a version of a story to tell on this one. Should we go with the long version? You know what we risk when I tell a long version? That I forget what my original point was. So, all right, I'll just intend. I'm going to get this right. Once upon a time, oh my gosh, it was this season. Oh, I had the worst kitten season ever. I don't know how smart it is for me to keep saying that. It was so bad. I lost a lot of kittens, more kittens than I probably have in 2 decades. It was hard. I'm talking about it right now without crying, but for a while I couldn't. And guess what? My kitten season isn't even over. I thought I had my last kitten. Oh, see, this is what I mean by getting sidetracked. I thought I had my last kitten, But South Jordan Shelter, they asked me, hey, we got a semi-feral mom, semi-feral daughter, not super adoptable, but, you can work with ferals, right? They know I got a thing for ferals. And I said, sure, I'll come get them because these guys are ramping up their rescue efforts. So I wanted to be supportive. So I went and I got the feral mom and the feral daughter who's like, 4 or 5 months. And I was going to see if they could be friendly, but they had their own private room in the meantime. And I didn't want to roll them up for a surgery. First of all, you got to make sure they're not sick. And then I kind of wanted to make a little bit of friends before I took them in to get spayed. So I was in that phase when I walked in the room one day and there was a newborn kitten. There was a white newborn kitten on the floor. I couldn't even imagine. I was like, I had to blink. Am I having an illusion here? Am I seeing things? There should not be kittens in this room. Yeah, there was not only that kitten, she had 4 others. That mom was pregnant. I didn't even know it. I just thought they were eating so much food because they'd been strays and they were making up for it. They're putting on weight or something. I didn't know I had a pregnant cat in there. So, yeah, I got more kittens. But guess what? They're all 5. They were white fluff balls. They're just going to be stunningly gorgeous Siamese cats, just like their mom is. Okay. Anyway. Okay. My kitten season this year has been hard on the hard. I think part of it was because I was taking in feral moms. They were community cats that had been taken in for spay. They were pregnant. And when the vet spayed them, the kittens were almost full term enough to survive. So they revived them and said, stick them in a foster home. That's me. That's where I come in. So I've got these kittens that weren't born naturally. I think that because I don't have any diseases. At this place, I am clean and clear of all that. I didn't lose any kittens because of any of that. I was losing them for strange reasons. Some of them were inexplicable. One had an enlarged kidney. One had the enlarged heart kitten, actually. I believe she's still alive. Anyway, it was hard. The reason I'm talking about this is because I lost a lot of kittens and I wasn't getting the kind of support that I wanted from my significant other. From my best friend, my primary partner. It wasn't, look, it's not an easy thing to go through or to be present with if someone else is experiencing, but it was contrasty for me, not just to be losing kittens, but to not have anyone who could support me through it or be with me as I was going through it. He would basically just kind of get frustrated that it was going to ruin a weekend. I was going to be sad all weekend, and he just kind of would go AWOL when that happened, or it wasn't his favorite thing, and it wasn't my favorite thing. I got to the point where I was feeling so much contrast around it that I was just like, oh, I just need a hug. Could I just have a hug? I was frustrated. What I wanted was support. I wanted understanding. I wanted someone's emotional presence and generosity. And I was tired of not having it. In fact, I was talking to my mom about it. I was telling her, because my mom was helping me socialize these kittens. My mom and my dad, my aunt, they were coming up all summer long playing with kittens because they got to be socialized by not just me. They got to learn strange people too. So I was telling my mom that I'd lost another kitten and that he had gone in for surgery and he was healthy. He was fat, should have been fine. He was well old enough. I mean, I waited a long time. Anyway, he died on the surgery table, and I was telling my mom about it and about my friend's response to it, which was, I'm not even going to give you the details on it. I guarantee he would tell a different version than I tell, but I was pretty horrified at his response. It just felt like it was completely lacking any compassion, any understanding, any kindness. I'm telling my mom this story, and she says, you know what? Your dad's the same way. She says, you basically just got to get used to it because it's how they are. Oh, tell me I got to get used to it? Oh, I don't think so. It activated my inner rebel. I was like, oh, don't tell me how it's going to be for me. That was the final contrast. Like, a contrast had been there all along, but that finally made it big enough that I was like, oh, I know what to do about this. And I hung up the phone and I practiced having what I wanted. I practiced what it felt like to be supported. I practiced what it felt like to have someone understand and be emotionally present and compassionate. I just gave it to myself right then and there. And I wasn't just giving myself my own understanding and emotional support, although that would work too. I imagined what it was like to be getting it from someone else. And, like the hug, hello, that too. And it was in my imagination. It was not in my real life. And I didn't particularly have any strong ideas about how this would show up. I just knew that I wanted it. I was tired of not having it. This whole kitten season was so hard, and I was basically doing it all by myself. Last time I had this rough of a kitten season, I was doing it with my best friend, Verl, and we did it together. It was so much easier doing it together. Oh, it was hard to do it alone, but I wasn't doing it alone in that moment. In that moment, I had someone who got it, someone who cared, someone who was kind. Oh, and I didn't know, was that going to show up in the form of like a girlfriend or maybe a fellow rescue friend? I don't know. Or maybe I'd hire a coach who could, I didn't know. I didn't care. I just knew, give myself what I want, because universe can't give it to me until I know what it feels like. And all I'd been feeling was lack of support, lack of emotional understanding or compassion or anything cool like that. Even presence. Could someone just even be here with me instead of abandon me to just cry all weekend? I'm exaggerating a little bit when I say cry all weekend, but not that much. Not that much. I agree. Yeah, it wouldn't be fun to hang out with me. I agree. But what I wanted was someone who would. So I gave it to myself in my imagination. Just someone who got it. All right. So I give it to myself in that moment, and then, guess what? I might be getting things a little bit out of order, but around this same time, it became clear I needed to have my 18-year-old cat euthanized, which was also going to be hard. Hello, my 18-year-old cat. Ugh, I didn't like that either. But I won't go into detail, but she had things. It was her time. It was no longer kind to let her try to do this thing. So I needed to hire a vet to come do a euthanization at my house because she's a feral cat. I didn't want to have to catch her, haul her into a vet. The transport would be traumatic. Going to a noisy vet's office would be hard. I just didn't want that to be her last moments. So I needed a vet to come to my house. And I had used one about 1.5 years ago when my dog died. I really liked her. In fact, I wanted her again because first of all, this vet was really good. And I could cry in front of her and not feel bad. She was she gave me exactly what I needed. Like I could be with her. She was really cool. So I reached out and I asked her, hey, can you come, and I got a cat who needs to be euthanized. And she's like, I don't service your area anymore, but here are a couple of vets who do. They were both guys' names. And I was like, well, I'd really rather have another female vet because I thought they'd be more compassionate, right? So I asked around in my rescue circle. I'm like, hey, do you know anyone a female vet, preferably would come up to my area? All my friends are asking around. I get a recommendation of one. It was one of the guys that the other vet had actually recommended. So I booked with him, but when I was talking with him, I was like, he was all business. He was it was all business, so professional. It was like, I thought, no, this isn't where the compassion comes from, but I need to have it done, so fine. And then my ex-boyfriend, Verl, called me, and he said, I told him I had it lined up and told him when and where and how much and everything, and he said, I know I could get you a better deal than that. I could get someone cheaper. I could get someone faster. I was like, well, I already have it booked, but he said, let me work on it. He called me back an hour later, and he said, I got a guy for you. He said, this guy is, he said, I think you're really going to like him. In fact, I'm a little bit in love with him my own self. And then he said, he told me the details, and I was like, wow, okay. And look, I'm a kind of girl, once I have something booked, I don't change it. I don't like to change it. Once I have an appointment, I'm going to see that appointment through. But I did have, my inspiration was, yes, change this, which surprised me because I don't like to change things. I don't like to cancel on people, but I did because I was getting a green light on this deal that my friend was showing me. So I texted that guy who was also another vet that the female vet had recommended. That's the other name that she had suggested. So anyway, I texted him, set it up, and when he came out to do it, oh my gosh, first of all, as soon as I laid eyes on him, I recognized him. I recognized him from a way that I cannot explain. Not from this lifetime is what I'm saying. It was such a strong recognition. I burst into a smile. I'd been sitting on my porch, pool of tears. I'm getting ready to say goodbye to my friend of 18 years. He pulls up. I lay eyes on him. I recognize him on like a soul level or something. I burst into a smile and had to stop myself from shouting, "It's you!" and running to give him a hug. Luckily I didn't do that. I looked like an idiot standing there smiling, but at least I didn't go hug him. But that's how strongly I recognized him. And sure enough, he was fabulous. Oh my gosh, he was amazing. And I felt like a fool for thinking that I needed a female vet to be compassionate and supportive and emotionally present and generous. Because this guy was all that. This guy was all that. Oh my word. And he was amazing, and he took really good care of my cat. And when he was leaving, guess what he said? "Do you need a hug?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I do." And I got a fabulous hug. He says that to all of his clients. Well, most of his clients. So I'm like, wow, universe delivered. I dialed into support, and it sent me this most amazing vet ever. It was absolutely amazing. And then I had an issue with another kitten. Well, a couple days later, he checked in with me. He texted to say, "Hey, how you doing? Just checking to see if you're doing all right." He's asking about how I'm feeling with having euthanized my 18-year-old feral cat. He doesn't even realize I've lost yet another foster kitten. And I'm like, I texted him back, "Oh my gosh, as a matter of fact, it's been a terrible weekend." And I tell him about it. And guess what he was? Emotionally present. He was understanding. He was compassionate. He was generous. In fact, he offered. He said, "Oh, I got more hugs if you need them. More hugs where that came from if you need them." I was like, I might take you up on that. So I'm thinking, how cool that universe heard me and delivered so quickly. I mean, it was within hours. It might have been, I don't know. It was within hours, maybe a day and a half, maybe. I don't know, half a day? I don't know. It was fast. It was crazy fast. But it took my mom saying, "Well, get used to it, Jeanette. That's how they are." It took her saying that for me to finally be willing to give myself, to line up with what I wanted instead of just be complaining that I wasn't getting what I wanted. Because universe can't get it through, even though I've got such strong desire for it. Until I'm a vibrational match to it, it can't get it through. So me just taking that moment to practice having what I want, to feel what it feels like to be supported, to have someone who understands and cares and is kind and generous. That's all I had to do. Practice it for a little bit. And when I say little bit, I mean maybe not even a minute. It really was teeny weeny. Abraham's been talking lately about how we have tremendous leverage when we practice alignment, when we work with the vibration, instead of rely on the action to get what we want. That's where our true leverage is. They're using the metaphor of the crane. The crane operator with just a couple of controls with one hand can lift crazy heavy things and do things that it would take a whole ton of guys to pull off because of the power of leverage. And that's what I practiced for I don't think it was even a full minute, practicing feeling what it felt like to have what I wanted. That's all it took. Okay, so little Miss Smarty Pants thinks I cracked the nut on support, emotional generosity and presence and understanding and kindness. And guess what I didn't keep doing? I just did it that once. And I'm like, ta-da, it's handled. The universe delivered it. Because guess what? So it turns out that my vet is single. How do you like that? And he had a similar experience, not as strong as mine, but something about me felt really familiar to him. So that was a kind of cool thing. So I start seeing this vet, and he's the most amazing, generous, supportive, understanding, kind man I've met in I don't know how long, maybe forever. Until he wasn't. Until I started drifting back to my old vibration, my old habit of I don't even want to speak to it because I don't want to reactivate it, because I'm consciously recognizing that the more I flow that, the more that's how people have to show up for me in my life. And I really don't want to spoil things with this guy. I really, but I also don't want to be attached to him. Universe, if you got a better plan for how I could do that, I know my job is get in alignment with that. Get in alignment with what I want. And let the chips fall where they may. The universe knows who to send and who to exit in order for me to have that experience. But I got to be willing to practice that experience. I got to be willing to give myself what I want vibrationally. And that just means using my imagination or even my memory if I want to think back on a time when I experienced it, or notice someone else who's having it and just eavesdrop or draft off their vibration. There are all sorts of ways I can activate it, but that's what I got to do. It's not a one-time hat trick. That's what I'm saying. Me thinking that one activation all of a sudden is going to turn around my life in a 180. Maybe it's not fair to say 180, but probably. No. If I want to maintain that success, guess what I got to do? Keep activating the vibration of what I want. So what I practiced was, because I realized what I want is more, support and understanding, emotional presence. That's cool. Roll that in however you like, universe. But I also got in the mood for a love interest. I was like, hello, happy relationship. Let's do that. So I started activating happy, healthy relationship, happily ever after, and life getting even better. I mean, that really took over. I even changed up my I am statement that I'd been using forever. I got this one turned on after I realized that when my new guy started doing things just like my old guy, like disappearing, not showing up, not knowing what to say, not expressing any sympathy or compassion, I was like, oh, girl, you got to get your manifesting game back on, because when it shows up in two guys, I got to realize it's not them, it's me. This is my vibration. This is me drifting back to my just old habits of thought and habits of feeling of they don't get it, they're not here, no one supports me, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, that's why I'm telling this story, so that when you create a manifesting success, if it's something you would like to repeat or maintain, however you got there, you're probably going to want to keep doing that for a while. With my client vibration, remember how I stopped doing it after I filled my practice? And then it took a couple weeks before I started to get the signs that it was not cool. And then I reactivated it, and it took a couple weeks to get back to good. I maintained that alignment practice for a full year before I stopped doing it. That's how, I'm not going to say that it took a full year for it to become my default vibration, but by the end of a year, I had nailed it. Like, that was how I rolled. That was so me. I didn't even have to do it on purpose anymore. Like, when I stopped doing it, my vibration didn't go anywhere. It didn't drift back to any old neighborhoods. It stayed right there because I'd practiced it so strongly. In fact, this was a while ago, a couple years ago. I had this idea that, if I just stopped paying attention to money, that it would, I was thinking, I just know too well what my money is. And if I just stop paying attention to it, it will grow without me constantly looking at it, knowing how much I make and how much is there, et cetera, et cetera. So I went for a whole year not paying attention to money. And guess what happened after that whole year? I made the exact same amount of money that I have always made. Nothing happened. It didn't move at all. And that's when I realized I got a set point in place. I got a set point that is not automatically growing without my active participation in it. You know, when Abraham has said, wherever you last left your vibration, that's where it'll be when you revisit it. I realized I got to consciously move this money vibration up if I want it to be anymore. And so that's when we did at Good Vibe University. I figured I'm not the only one who can benefit from this. Let's all do it. So I led a year-long course called the Money Aligner, where every month we played with a different alignment practice. But the point being that it doesn't matter what the practice is. The point is that you practice having what you want. So I practiced feeling financial abundance and prosperity in a way that I wanted, instead of being frustrated that my money wasn't going up at all. And that year, my money almost doubled. I was just shy of being able to say that it doubled. So that course is in the archives for GVU members. If you're interested in that, you can check that out anytime. But that's what I'm saying about consciously working your vibration on a regular basis to create a new default so that we aren't just doing these one-time manifestations and then being surprised when life goes back to its old ways. If we want to maintain that success, we got to maintain the practice. All right, hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it's not too long, and I hope the volume works. Thanks for listening, everyone. Big love.